Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all. Thanks for joining. While we give it a few, I'll just get started with my morning monologue as we wait for a few more folks to hop in. As you can see, we are recording this webinar today. It will be available for those who can join and for anyone who wants to review anything that we covered today. You can find this recording and all of our coffee hours, along with other recordings of workshops, certification help, newsletter previews, and a whole lot more on our YouTube channel. If you're looking for it, Torin is going to put a link in the chat to our YouTube channel, or if you go on YouTube, you can search Sustainable CT. That's a great way to find it. You can also find our YouTube channel in our monthly newsletter, which is Actions and Impact. Torin's also going to put a link to our most recent e-news newsletter in the chat as well. Since you registered for this coffee hour, it's likely that you're already receiving our newsletter, but please check it out. We try to keep it fun and informative. If for some reason you're not receiving our newsletter, you can easily subscribe just by going to our website, sustainablecT.org, and clicking the sign up button at the very bottom of the page. While you're on our website, please check out our podcast, The Impact. We drop new episodes on the 15th of each month. Torin's going to put a link as well in the chat again. Yeah, you can find the podcasts on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. This month's episode, we attended the 25th Annual Environmental Summit hosted by the Connecticut League of Conservation Voters. This will likely be a challenging political year, so we're sure you'll find this podcast interesting and hopefully helpful as well. And I'd like to just take a quick moment to thank all those who supported our recently concluded campaign for Sustainable CT. We're so appreciative of the tremendous support that you all have shown to Sustainable CT as we work to be your partner in the pursuit of creating more sustainable Connecticut. So we thank you. And we also want to take this moment to thank Hampshire Foundation for its generous support of every dollar donated during the campaign. This doubled the impact of those who donated. And of course, while the campaign might be over, you can still feel free to support us. You can do that by going to our website and clicking on the Support Us tab. Last thing I just want to mention, we are currently hiring both for our annual fellowship program and for a program assistant position. So our annual fellowship program is a summer program. Many of you have likely worked with some of our fellows. This is designed for current or recently graduated students. So if you or anyone you know might be interested in the fellowship program, please check out our page. Torin's also going to drop a link to that in the chat, as well as we're also hiring for a program assistant position. You can find out more details on that role at the employment page on our website. Torin will also drop a link for that. And both applications for both roles are due February 10th. So yeah, please check out our website, share with your networks if you have anyone in mind or if you yourself are interested, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions. So now with all of that out of the way, we can get to our main event. So I'm going to take the time to introduce our speakers who kindly joined us today. We are joined by Mary McCarthy, the T2 Center Program Director, and Shannon O'Loughlin, the T2 Center Educational Program Coordinator. They're going to provide an overview of the T2 Center's programs, specifically the CT Green Snow Pro Training Program, and how it can help your municipality manage snow more sustainably, while also earning points towards Action 3.14, Implement Sustainable Snow Management. We're also then going to hear from Tom Modzelewski. Sorry, Tom, Director of Public Works for the Town of Ellington. If you're not already aware, Ellington is a leader in the state in sustainable snow management, and it is the first and only town in the state to earn all 60 points in our program under Action 3.14. So lots of really great experience and knowledge in the room with us today. So with that, I will stop chatting and I'll hand it over to Mary and Shannon to kick us off.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. we're always happy to talk about our programs and the different ways that we can help you and you can help your towns. So just, today we're going to be focusing on sustainable snow management and action 3.14. But first, a little bit about our center. We provide training and technical assistance to the towns on anything to do with transportation. So for training, we have 10 different certificate programs that span the Public Works career ladder, anywhere from our Public Works Academy for new hires all the way through to our Transportation Leadership Program, a cohort-based program for current and future leaders. We offer both virtual and in-person opportunities. So we span topics from operational safety, road safety, structures, road building, asphalt pavement maintenance, you name it. If it has to do with transportation and maintaining our local roads, we either offer it or are willing to find a way to offer it for you. Technical assistance, we have our safety and signal circuit rider programs that provides free assistance to towns dealing with road safety issues or traffic signal maintenance and timing issues. We also have access to pavement and material expertise through our Connecticut Advanced Pavement Laboratory. Many of you, if you've attended our All About Asphalt, you've come and taken a tour of that facility and all the cool work they're doing there. We also have an extensive equipment loan program. So if you're out there trying to collect data or identify issues out on your roads, we have lots of equipment that we can loan to you so that you can collect that data and gather that information to make informed decisions. A third thing that we do is information exchange. The transportation community in Connecticut is diverse and just wonderful. And so we try to be that conduit so that you all can share all those good stories and those experiences and lessons learned with each other. We have newsletters that we do every month. We have listservs where you can talk to each other via email, offer assistance, ask questions, pose problems, and get immediate feedback from your colleagues across the state. And we have topical web pages. We have a Connecticut Safety Examples website where we share ideas that you all are doing to improve the safety on your roadways. We have a bill website where we talk about funding opportunities for the towns under the recent legislation. Pretty much anything that we see is trending, if we can gather resources and get it out on the web to make it easy for you to access, that's what we're all about. Actually, Shannon, you want to take this one?
Sounds good. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Connecticut Green Snow Training Program. So just a little bit of a background of what brought Connecticut Green Snow Pro into Connecticut. So the concentrations of sodium and chloride in Connecticut's environment has been increasing over time, due in large part to salt application on roadways, parking lots, sidewalks, just anywhere where salt's needed for the traveling public to be safe. That can lead to increased over time with the application. So because we have to use sodium and chloride, but there are some impacts of that use, and significant impacts can be found to groundwater, drinking water wells, as well as infrastructure and equipment. And there really are no easy solutions to remove sodium and chloride from the environment. So really now thinking about the best ways to apply that, using best practices, and that's really what the Green Snow Pro training program is all about. So a little more specifically, this program was developed in 2017. We have some nice partners on the call with us today from New Hampshire. So our colleagues in New Hampshire have had this Green Snow training program. Sorry, my mouse is being a little jumpy today. They allowed us to have access to their course materials for New Hampshire's Green Snow Pro training program. And so we adapted that to Connecticut. So really back in 2017, there was a group that came together with local municipal agencies in Connecticut, DEEP, DOT, Yukon Clear, and DPH, that talked about how this program would look for Connecticut. And so the goal of the Green Snow Pro training program is to provide and support best practices for salt application and sustainable winter operations. So this class began being offered in Connecticut in 2018, and our center has provided this program through our Rhodes Scholar program. So as Mary mentioned, we have many certificate programs. Rhodes Scholar is one of them, and this is an elective workshop that attendees take to complete their Rhodes Scholar certificate. Next slide. So within our program, it started in 2018 with just the roadways course. At that time, it was called a different title. We did make some changes along the way with that, but we've always been offering a Green Snow Pro class for those that maintain. I'm so sorry, I don't know why my mouse is doing that. We have been offering a class that is catered to those that maintain the roadways, right? So we call that our Connecticut Green Snow Pro for Roadways class. In 2022, the Connecticut legislation gave us a one-time funding to expand our program to provide training for those that maintain other than the roads, parking lots, sidewalks, and more for those private commercial applicators. So we expanded our training program to include a new class, the Connecticut Green Snow Pro for parking lots and sidewalks. And again, this is having a focus more on for private commercial applicators or for those that maintain parking lots and sidewalks. With this class, the focus initially was for those private commercial applicators, but within municipalities in the state, we've had really great attendance from those that work for Parks and Rec within towns or the state for bridges, for those that work in housing departments. We've had a really great uptake within the municipality sector for that as well, and that's been really lovely to see. So we do have both of these classes that we offer as Rhodes Scholar elective workshops, and we offer these yearly. I just like having those pictures because it really shows during that class, we have an interactive component where there is a calibration section, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But just beneath each class, you can see what the participants are doing while they're in those classes. For the topics of our class, regardless if you're going to the roadways class or the parking lots and sidewalks class, you are going to come out with these topics being talked about in both of those classes. They will be tailored slightly depending on if you're in roadways versus parking lots and sidewalks, but you'll learn about why does it matter, environmental impacts of salt use. They'll talk about snow fighting chemicals and how they work, material storage and site management best practices. They'll have that equipment calibration portion, which is talking about in class, and then obviously going outside for that live demonstration. Again, depending on what class you're in, the equipment's different. For the roadways class, you'll have that municipal vehicle and doing calibration on that. For the parking lots and sidewalks class, it's going to be a slide and spreader with a walk behind push applicator. So having both of those components, and the instructors go through both of those. We have a really lovely instructor team. And so the day is full with great knowledge. It's a full day class starting at 8:30, ending at 3 p.m. With lots of opportunities to chat with other municipalities and learn from others while you're in the room with them. So then the second half of the day, finishing up with pre-storm preparation, during the storm activities, and then post-storm operations, including cleanup and record keeping. So as you can see by our green map, we've had really great attendance throughout the state. So if you look at this municipality map, if your town is green, that means that one or more municipal employees from that town has attended a class since 2018 when it began being offered. So if your town is not yet green, we would love to have you attend a class. If your town is green, still keep sending your staff and keep continuing that learning. We love to have everyone in that room. So just a couple stats about where we've been and how many people we've been able to speak with. So since 2018, we've had 22 in-person sessions, and we go across the state. So we try to go all over because we're a small state, but we're also big sometimes, right? We want to make sure we are able to reach those that want to attend no matter where you might be in the state. So we've gone to 17 different towns to hold a class. And so you'll see this year we're going to a couple new towns for that as well. And we also have virtual sessions. So I didn't mention that yet, but we offer in-person sessions for our Connecticut Green Snow Pro for Roadways class. So that's an in-person class. But then virtually, we have the Connecticut Green Snow Pro for parking lots and sidewalks class. We think, especially with the reaching private commercial applicators, we like the idea of a virtual class that no matter where you are in the state, you can have access by joining us for a Zoom full day class for that. And the calibration for the in-person class, or sorry, for the virtual class is done with a video. So you're still going to have the essence of going through. It's a really nice 15-minute video where they're talking in depth about what you're calibrating, what materials or what equipment you need, and then how to go through and do the calculations of the calibration, and then having some demonstrations with videos. So still giving the essence of that demonstration in the virtual format. So in person is roadways, virtual classes are the parking lots and sidewalks. And so since 2018, we've had over 550 attendees. This includes those from the Connecticut DOT. We've had over 97 municipalities, so those green states in the map. And then we've had 32 private contractors attend as well. So it's really great, and we love to keep having that increase, and we're having classes again this year. So please reach out to me or join a class if you haven't yet done so. We'd love to have you. And so I wanted to share this picture. So if you have attended a class with us before, when you attend a Green Snow Pro class, it's that full day, 8:30 to 3. We also have an exam component. So there's a 20-question exam just to go through what you guys learned that day. And then after you take the class, you pass the exam, you get a letter in the mail from us with a certificate of successful completion, as well as a Green Snow Pro decal. So this is an all-weather decal that we send to every attendee that successfully completes the class, and we would love to see this on your vehicle. So I do have a couple pictures to share of those that have attended with us and that have displayed the stickers on their vehicles. And please, if you have attended and you have those sitting in your office or in a mailbox, please put those out, send me a picture. We love to continue showing all that great work you all are doing and learning more about sustainable winter operations. Okay. And for more information, so you will be able to access this presentation afterwards to be able to click on some links, but I just wanted to share a link as well as a QR code. We have a sustainable winter operations webpage on our website with information about this class, about technical resources with sustainable winter operations, how to register for our classes. So this is a great one-stop shop to be able to learn more about our Connecticut Green Snow Pro training program and winter operations in general. So you'll be able to click the link, or if you wanted to scan the QR code now, it is on the page for that. And lastly, before I turn it back over to Mary, this is hot off the press for 2025. We are scheduling our classes for this year. So I just wanted to let you all know that we do have plans to hold 3 classes this year, 2 of which will be Connecticut Green Snow Pro for roadways. So we're going to have an in-person class in the spring. This is open for registration. So if you wanted to, after this call, if you wanted to get some people registered, it is ready to go. This is going to be March 25th in North Windham. And that is on our website. It is live for registration. The flyer you'll also see on the screen as well. So that's good to go. If you wanted to attend geographically, we have one in Guilford in the fall. So that's also going to be in person. That's on September 16th. That is not up for registration currently, but if you want to just keep an eye out or just let me know if you're interested, I can keep your name in my mind and reach out to you when it is open later this year. It'll be open for registration. Also, if you're interested in parking lots and sidewalks, that is going to be held virtually. We like to hold it in late fall, early winter, around like November, December. Logistically, it's harder to have those classes in the fall or the winter when we have snow. So virtually it's nice because it's a little bit more flexible. So we don't have a date yet for that virtual class, but we will be getting that on the calendar. So always keep checking our workshop schedule, and that will give you the most up-to-date information. But I wanted to let you all know we have 3 classes this year that you guys can definitely attend, and that'll help you earn those points for action 3.14. It's action or item 1A, and Mary will talk about that just briefly. But if you have any questions about this at all, or if you're interested in registering, just please feel free to reach out to myself or Mary as well. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mary, and she's going to talk more about action 3.14.
Great, thank you, Shannon. So with the Green Snow Pro program, we're trying to make it easy for towns to do the right thing, and to justify, improving their operations, improving their equipment, doing things so that they can measure and manage the amount of chlorides that they're putting out on the road. We know it's a problem. We know it's a multifaceted issue. Public Works and the transportation community does have a strong impact on that. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to support you in your efforts to use as little product as possible. So, the sustainable action 3.14 is another reason to do the right thing, right? It's another way to benefit from the good work that you're doing for your towns. So the action was just recently updated in 2024 to add opportunities to get points, to bolster some of the points that were being assigned for things, to really show the amount of work that goes into winter operations on the town side and the huge impact that proper winter operations can have on your community's sustainability. So the objective for the action is to promote sustainable management of snow and ice, to prioritize public safety, but also optimize salt usage to protect the environment and the public health. Those who are involved in public works and transportation in the towns, road safety is number one. Making sure it's safe for folks to get where they need to go is definitely the top priority. But we're also environmental stewards. We're also public health stewards. We're involved in that. We contribute to our environment. We take care of our environment. So we want to make sure we're doing the best that we can. We're also fiduciary stewards, right? We want to be doing things that are cost effective and that are efficient because we have limited resources. We want to make sure that we're making the best use of those. So benefits to participating in sustainable snow management are protecting potable water supplies, protecting our environment, our ecosystems, so biodiversity, not salting and silting in our streams and roadsides and our drinking water. Also reduction of municipal costs while still supporting road safety. Part one of the action is educating municipal staff, residents, and businesses about promoting and managing sustainable winter operations. So attending Green Snow Pro, having your staff attend Green Snow Pro, not just your decision makers, but your drivers. In the end, they're the ones, right? They're the ones who are driving those vehicles. They're the ones who are plowing the roads and putting that material down on the roads. So it's really good for them to understand why you might be changing things, why you're using something new. So having them understand what standards and practices are, and why it's important to use as little as possible is a really good idea. So you can get points for that. And that submitting for those points is as simple as sending in the list of names of the people who took the class and when they took it. Host an event or workshop to educate your residents or businesses on how to reduce salt usage. Shannon talked about how we have the sidewalks and parking lots class. I mean, we've all go into a store and there's just piles of salt out on the sidewalk or in the parking lots of the malls or the shopping centers, right? Let business owners and contractors know what's going on. Have them, get educated on what they're doing by putting so much out. And we understand that there's issues there too with risk management and liability, but trying to get them aware, just building the awareness of the impact of all of that material out on the road. So, we want to balance public safety, but we also want to consider environmental and economic sustainability concerns. So for that one, if you have a workshop or you have an event where you're targeting a particular population, you just submit that you had the event, some of the materials that were disseminated so you can show what you were educating them on, when you had the event, just showing what you're doing in that area. Having a winter operations plan. You need to have a plan. Most towns have them on some level. Sometimes it's, just in here. Other times it is, it's a more robust, written, formalized plan. But, having the plan is super important so that you have consistency and what you're managing, what you need to measure, where you want to go with things. So you want to make sure that plan involves, that you're thinking about it in terms of environmental impact and public health and water quality, that you're not just doing it for efficiency, but that there's a reason behind it, that you're supporting your community through this activity. Operation standards on anti-icing, that you are considering some of the current standards of pre-wetting, using liquids, making sure that you're storing and maintaining your facilities properly so that you're not having leaching issues, that you're calibrating equipment, regardless of what kind of equipment it is, that you know what it is you're putting down, because you can't manage what you don't measure. If you don't know how much you're putting down, how do you know if you're putting too much down? You don't. So, having something in there that talks about keeping track of those things. To that end, an application rate chart. Do you have a plan or where you'd like to be? If you have this kind of a storm, let's start here and see where it goes. That you have, that you're tracking salt and sand usage if you're using sand or need to use sand in some areas. That you're tracking that both within the storm, the weather conditions, as well as over the season. In the action, there are a couple of tools that you can use. There's Appendix A that has an example of a salt usage chart template, and Appendix B has a blank storm report chart template that you can use if you don't have one of your own. It doesn't have to be this one if you're using something different, but it's tracking those items that you're, and you're able to see. This storm was, we didn't get as much snow, but it was really cold. We had to put more material down, or it was long lasting, but it didn't produce a lot. Those sorts of things, so that you can take a look at what happened and learn from those experiences, debrief from those storms, and find ways to tweak your usage. Here's examples of those. Part 2 is developing, continued of developing the winter operations plan, is a description of where those are. Like, they need to be in a place where the drivers can grab them, or they need to be easy to use, right? You want to make it as easy as possible for your drivers and your staff to do the right thing. And you have to have a process in place of, do they know what the plan is? How do they fill out that form? Who do they give the form to? What are they tracking? Those sorts of things, all of those policies and procedures. And if you should have a written plan, because that's the best way to share it. Make sure that you submit that. And there's worksheet 1 that you can submit. That gives a little bit of information to Sustainable CT as to where to go. Some plans are extensive, or they're part of a larger plan. So being able to target what pages there are, so reviewers know exactly what it is that you're saying satisfies that criteria. But just a quick page number is all that you need to identify these different parts. Part 3 is where you can really get some points. Having an annual inspection of your facilities to make sure that they are in compliance with DEEP's best management practices, that you're protecting that store pile. You want to make sure that it's covered. You want to make sure that it has impermeable pavement underneath, and you're blocking and you're using whatever you need to use to make sure water isn't accessing that area, and even the moisture isn't leaching out into something that could be damaging the environment around your facility. You want to calibrate your sand and salt dispersible equipment. Calibrate your sanders. Make sure you know what you're measuring. Be able to prove that, you can get 10 points, and you should be doing that with every vehicle. Keeping records, and you should be doing that at least once a season, just to make sure. If you're seeing something weird happen and you're tracking those numbers and something doesn't seem right, you can recalibrate, but it helps you see what's happening with your program. Updating your fleet and equipment to be able to control the usage of materials. I know some towns don't have big public works budgets. It takes a long time to be able to afford new equipment, might not have new things, might not have ground speed control. But there are ways to calibrate every piece of equipment. And as you start to build and update things and make those efforts, then you can get considered for points for that as well. Prove that you are following state best management practices for snow disposal. For those of you who have to remove snow from downtowns or store snow piles somewhere, make sure that you're following that. Have a plan, have a map showing where it is that you do and where you are storing snow, and also, why that's a good spot, that you've checked this, that, the different things that are listed in the best management practices. Another thing you can do is adopt a policy for requiring and documenting training for all operators, including those contracted by the town. You know, make it a policy that you're going to do training every year. And if you're contracting out for your downtowns or municipal parking lots or things like that, pull those people in, make them understand the importance of it. And it can be provided internally. It doesn't need to be Green Snow Pro every year. You know, develop your own program. We can share some information with you to continue on that good work within your agencies. So for that, for part 3, you want to submit the strategies that you implemented, documentation showing the implementation of those strategies, copies of contracts or policies or procedures, calibration records, things like that. They list different things that are going to work within the action. So as you're moving through that, you know, take a look. There's a lot of good resources provided on the website to help you navigate. Before I switch over to Ellington, you know, I just want you to, those of you, because I see lots of people who are on this session this morning, and I know many of you are already doing great work. And what I challenge you to do is to look at next steps. What can you do to go beyond what you're doing now? What can you do to take another step towards improving the sustainability and minimizing the use of materials on your winter roads? So I'll pass it over to Tom to talk about his experience.
Great. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate the introduction. Appreciate everybody jumping on a call this morning. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of our Sustainable Connecticut journey from the time that the committee was formed through the submission time and then the award. But then specifically, I'll dive into 3.14 a little bit more so you can see what we submitted to be the only town to receive all 60 points, which is I guess, touting our own record. So on May 8th, in 2023, the Board of Selectmen here in Ellington assigned myself and our town planner the task of co-chairing the committee to apply for the Sustainable Connecticut status. We didn't know anything about it at that time. It was kind of brand new, and it was kind of just handed to us and said, here, make this happen. On May 31st, I met with the town planner, Lisa Houlihan. We discussed the next steps and then identified some potential team members. So I recommend if you're going to go through this Sustainable Connecticut application process, that you identify other folks in town who can help you along that journey. There's a lot to do, and it's a lot for one person or 2 people to do. So we involved probably 13 different department heads, and everybody had a task. We assigned specific items to those folks who were able to bring like submittals back to us that we were able to then turn in at the end. So our first meeting was June 21st, 2023. We were fortunate also to work with Sustainable CT Fellow through CROG. And this person was instrumental in answering questions throughout the entire process during our submission period. They attended our meetings virtually and communicated very well electronically with timely and helpful responses. I don't know that everybody going through the process will have that benefit, but I do recommend if you do have a fellow available to you, I highly recommend taking advantage of that. At least ours was very helpful in answering questions, because there's a lot of information that or questions that you have to answer that you may or may not be familiar with, and it just helps getting clarification on not only what those questions are really asking for, but what the submission can look like in order to be successful. Because submitting things and then not receiving what you want to hear in return can be, kind of detrimental to the process. So as I mentioned, all of our team members chose or were assigned to certain action items that kind of supported their role in our municipality. Some of those action items were commingled with others where folks could work together, but most of them were individual tasks. And then during the first meeting, we also set aside some goals and decided that a bronze submission would be appropriate for the level of work that we were kind of ready to take on. So our target date was April 10th of 2024. So specifically related to action item 3.14, which is implement sustainable snow management. Here in Ellington, we implemented sustainable winter operations in 2018. I came on board as the foreman for the DPW in 2017 and recognized that there was some changes that need to be made with our winter operations. And in 2018, we implemented our own sustainable practices. So it wasn't for a few years afterwards that we were approached to complete the Sustainable Connecticut submission, and this action happened to be one of those items. So it's been a culture of ours along the way to to implement these practices and to kind of live and breathe them throughout the winter, summer, and fall and spring months. We had enough data because of that to have a successful submission. So it helped. And I guess the biggest thing I want to make sure that you take away from this is that it's something that you have to do both before and after your submission to Sustainable Connecticut for the award. Like the goal shouldn't be just to receive that shingle that you put on the side of the building. The goal should be that you're implementing and carrying out sustainable winter operations on an annual basis. Additionally, we do here in Ellington, we owe a debt of gratitude to the Yukon T2 Center for inviting us to share our story with many public works, state DOT, and public health agencies, and also public safety officials throughout the state of Connecticut. They recognized the work that we were doing, and they invited us as a spotlight town, and we've done that for 2 or 3 years now. And I've been fortunate to also join their instructor team. So I present with the Yukon instructors on sustainable winter operations and specifically the Green Snow program. So that is in line with our goal as a municipality. We're doing good work, or at least we believe we're doing good work, and we want to share that message with as many people as possible. So getting into the nitty gritty, if you will, of 3.14, one of the first items that we submitted was the documentation that we had sent our own staff to a Connecticut Green Snow Pro class. We hosted a class. We sent some folks obviously to that class, and then we also sent some folks to a remote class. And then we submitted the documentation that had happened. Also, we hold an annual Earth Day celebration. And during this event, we had a rolling slideshow and some Green Snow Pro information and some information on the implementation that we've gone through. And we shared that with the attendees in Earth Day. Our Earth Day celebration is a pretty significant event. We get about 1,000 people to the town green, and we get pretty good traffic to our DPW booth. So it was a nice opportunity to share what we're doing here in Ellington, and that qualified us for good points under the 3.14.1B section. 3.14.2, we submitted the formally adopted snow and ice control plan that I presented to the Board of Selectmen on January 8th, 2024. This was something that Mary mentioned earlier as part of the submission requirements. And a lot of people get scared when they think about implementing a snow and ice control plan because their fear is, it's a document that no matter what is guiding you and what you do, and it's very strict and regimented, and, you can't be outside of those parameters. And I encourage you to create a document that allows leeway because, it's Mother Nature is very fickle in what she decides to do. And you need to have a little bit of leeway to make changes at the drop of a hat sometimes. So I encourage folks, don't be scared off by being controlled by a plan. Include language in that plan that allows you to make some on the spot decisions based on the weather, because that's really ultimately in your snow operations, you should be making decisions based on the weather at that moment and not historical patterns or anything like that, or budgetary restraints. And 3.14 or 3.14.3, we provided a letter bulletizing what sustainable winter operations practices we had implemented and provided records of the following items. Our salt storage best management practices, which included a location map and inspection records. So we have an industrial stormwater discharge permit, and part of having that permit is a spill prevention and control plan. So as part of that plan, we have an inspection form for our salt management and inspection records that we, keep up to date on a monthly basis. So that qualified us for some points under this particular section. We also submitted our salt applicator calibration charts and records, and we have been calibrating for quite some time. However, there's been a change in, what the end result was. We've always been calibrating for, well, I shouldn't say always, but at least probably since 2011 or so. And so we had good data to submit along with that. And then Mary also mentioned that those records should be, accessible to the drivers. So we provide cab cards to all of our operators that have the specific calibration settings for that particular vehicle. They get updated annually, and those are the types of things that qualify for good points under this section. We also have the winter road treatment plan that we submitted, and a parking lot and sidewalk application training PowerPoint. So annually, I rotate between 2 or 3 different presentations, whether it's parking lot and sidewalk application or municipal snow plowing. We have a couple in-house presentations that I put together that we go through annually, just to make sure that either new folks are brought up to speed on how we want things done in the town of Ellington, and also to answer any questions that they may have, but also as a refresher to the folks that it's been a few months since they've thought about winter operations, and then from the management standpoint, we're kind of always thinking about them. So we want to make sure that everybody is ready to go for winter, so we provide that training in the fall annually. So here's a couple pictures of a few of the documents that we submitted. The picture on the left is a salt dome inspection form that's part of our SPCC plan. And then we have GIS mapping online that's available. So we were able to pull that up and submit the picture of where our salt shed is located in reference to wetlands flagging and potential watershed areas. And additional pictures here showing just one quick slide from our parking lot and sidewalk application training. This particular one just depicts the proper amount of application that folks should be looking for, what's too much, what's too little, and what's just right. And additionally, the picture on the right is our snow and ice control plan that was formally adopted by the Board of Selectmen. This was not a heavy lift, as you might think. It was a document that I found available from another municipality that I was able to modify and expand on for our own use. I'm a big proponent of not reinventing the wheel. I'm just as busy as everybody else, and I'm sure my calendar looks just as jam-packed as everybody. And if I don't have to write a 52-page document myself, I'm pretty happy about that, when I could just change some languages and some procedures in there to fit our needs. So I encourage you to do the same. Happy to share this information with anybody that's interested in it. Also, you'll see in a slide or two that all this information is available through the Sustainable Connecticut website. These were all submitted and are available via PDF through that website for you to review and use at your leisure. And 3.14.3 continued. I mentioned the snowplow training PowerPoint that we do every other year. We also track in a couple slides from now, you'll see my winter storm expense tracking records. So we track everything from hours, regular hours, overtime hours, contractor hours, material usage, whether it was treated salt, straight salt, liquid material. We track fuel usage, all sorts of different things. And that really gives us good data so we can know storm by storm where we are budgetarily. But it also provides, good history when you're looking at creating budgets for subsequent years. We have a winter material application reference guide, which you'll see in another slide, I believe, and also our storm water pollution prevention plan that I mentioned. The picture here on the bottom is just an example of the cab card that we have in all of our salt applicator vehicles. And as I mentioned, that's updated every year. It's got some pretty basic information. So, our plan is that the foreman will instruct the folks on what he wants them to apply at given the weather conditions. And this chart allows them to know where to actually set the dial or to program the screen in the unit. Also, we have some guidance on the bottom that says, our standard doors are set for a 2-inch opening. Don't change that unless you absolutely need to for some reason, if you have something stuck in the applicator. And then we also tell them, when you're spreading our policy, we're a center line application town. So we spread like a 6-foot wide plus or minus pattern down the center line of the road. Some towns apply via lane mile. So these application rates would be cut in half for those types of towns. But just an example of what you can provide to your drivers to not only keep them informed and give them some guidance, but also qualify for this initiative. The picture here on the left is just a quick slide from our municipal snowplow training. It's a couple hours one morning every year in early November that we go through the do's and don'ts. And if anybody has any questions about some struggles that they've had in the past, or any new folks have any questions about operationally how they should attack something, this is a great time for everybody to talk about that. We talk about, where to pile snow when there's nowhere to pile snow. We talk about, what a good salt application should look like, and make sure that, when you turn into a residential neighborhood and you're applying salt, and you turn out of the residential neighborhood and you're applying salt, you cross that intersection and make sure your application is complete through, so you don't have spots that don't melt out. So it's a good discussion had by all. And then the picture on the right there is just the cover page from our stormwater pollution and prevention plan that we work with an environmental consultant to keep updated on an annual basis. And then real quick, this is the tracking sheet that I use. It's rather smart in nature. It funnels information from an index that's updated annually, so it knows that we put in the labor forces, and it automatically populates on this sheet for overtime or straight time, and then also based on what material we've used and all those types of items. We also generate a storm report every storm that we're applying material. So we can also, those blue lines on the left are links to that storm report. So this sheet is multifaceted. And some additional pictures that we use for our Green Snow Pro training. A picture on the left all the way is a liquid applicator that we built here in house. That's just showing, that we are good stewards and we calibrate that piece of equipment every year. The bottom center there is a picture of another liquid applicator that we built here in house for sidewalk liquid application. We call him the sidewalk sergeant. And he does a great job with his little Steiner machine and that homemade liquid applicator. And then the same storm report tracking sheet that Shannon referenced earlier, or Mary, is shown here. That's the one that we generated. And this is just, we use this as a template every storm that we fill out with information. And then we take that information and that generates the formal storm report. And then they're kind of all tied together in the end, along with our loader scale report. And then the bottom right one there is our applicator storm, or our applicator cheat sheet. It just gives a lot of information on one sheet of paper about how and why we applicate, and some other additional notes down at the very bottom. So after we submitted all those things and some more, which you'll see if you ever go on to our submission on Sustainable Connecticut, we received the great news that we made our deadline, and we got some feedback that we did great work, and we've earned the full 60 points as requested for 3.14A, 3.141B, 3.14.2, and 3.143, which was really exciting to hear. After that, we received on May 24th the notification that we did receive bronze level status, which was exciting. After a year's time, that we finally had something to show for the hard work that we put in for it. The award presentation was attended by our first selectman and the town planner. And I just, want to publicly thank everybody that helped us along the way departmentally and outside of our departments to put a successful submission together. And as I mentioned before, you can use that link on this page here to view our submission and all the PDFs that are attached. And then I'll just throw out there finally, my contact information is always available for anybody that has any questions about sustainable winter operations or anything other that I have some sort of knowledge on. I'm always happy to have a quick call or an email. So thanks for listening to my spiel, and be safe out there for the rest of this winter.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tom, Mary, and Shannon, for sharing with us. Now we have 8 more minutes. We have time for questions. And we'll also share these emails in the follow-up email as well, along with the recording and the slides from today. To kick us off, we do have one question in the chat. Mary, Tom, or Shannon, whoever wants to jump in. What is the best way recommended to inform and motivate our town to sign on to take the Green Snow Pro courses? My town is one that was not a yes in the green as having yet participated, although other surrounding towns have. So any suggestions?
I'll kick that one off. I started to type a response to you, Dorothy, but I figured I would just do it verbally. So there's lots of reasons why somebody, a town might not have participated yet. I think probably the best bet is to ask them. Make sure they know about the program. You can share the information that you're getting today. Make sure that they know about it, and they might have a solid plan in place and don't feel like they need the training. If they're already up to speed and they're keeping close eye on standard practices, best practices, they might feel like they've got a really good system in place and that they don't need the Green Snow Pro at this time. But I think a conversation is probably the best way to go about that. We want to see the map all green, right? Because that's who we are. But there's lots of reasons why, and it's not a bad thing necessarily, as long as folks are taking the time to make sure that they're thoughtful about their winter operations, that they are thinking beyond, obviously road safety first, as we said earlier, but that even beyond that they understand their role as environmental stewards, as well as safety stewards.
I could also comment on that. I think that, as something that I've shared with the classes as part of the instructor team is the budgetary impact you get from sustainable winter operations. I mean, the first year that we implemented sustainable winter practices, we reduced our salt budget by $80,000. And the second year, we reduced our annual salt budget by 500 tons. So there was real results, and they were relatively immediate. So the big thing is saving money. And the other driving force is that we had some contaminated wells in town, and we were providing water to those folks. So we still are, because once you start, it's quite an act to get away from that. So we recognize that we probably ought to have a reason for what we're doing and why we're doing it. Because eventually, if these contaminated wells keep surfacing, deep, or somebody else is going to come knocking on our door and say, well, you're a salt applicator. What's your protocol, and what's your documentation as to why you're doing what you're doing? So I think those are probably the two big driving factors and why we chose to implement. And then we just jumped on the Green Snow Pro program from there.
Great. Thanks, Mary and Tom. We have another question in the chat from Rosalind. What is a good alternative to salt chunks? Sorry, non-DPW person. In municipal parking lots where populations visiting the buildings are mostly senior citizens. Our town is great for making sure these folks are safe, but it is a lot of salt.
I guess I can probably field that one as well. So salt chunks typically are formed when a salt pile sits for an extended period of time. So a lot of, especially winters like we've been having now, right? Everybody buys salt in November, and we haven't had significant snow for some time. So the salt sits there, and especially if they're uncovered materials. Even in our covered salt shed, salt that's been there for a long time, we end up having salt chunks. So if that's what you're referring to, just request to the contractor or to the municipality that those are broke up before they're spread on the parking lot or they're cleaned up afterwards. Additionally, if it's just a lot of salt that you're referring to, maybe you could request that they show proof of calibration and things like that to make sure that they're being good stewards of the environment and applying the right amount of salt.
Yeah, just to follow up on that quickly, I think too, a lot of towns, when they think about salt application, they're just thinking about their roads. But your parks departments, your grounds folks, they need to be educated too. Their equipment needs to be calibrated too. So sometimes they think more is better on the sidewalks leading up to town buildings, because you want to make sure that you do not get any ice forming. You really want to you're worried about that liability. Some other things to look into is, Tom, if you want to mention your liquids program, that you're trying out liquids on some sidewalks and some areas like that, so that you're getting good coverage for a long time. Without having all of that, because I mean, it's a slip and fall hazard, right? When you get enough salt on there, you can slide on that material. But liquids can help with that also.
Catherine,
It's like
I see
Catherine.
yeah.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm Catherine Deviney from the town of West Hartford, Connecticut. I'm not in public works or anything like that, but I do help coordinate our Sustainable Connecticut program. So I just have kind of a general question about your adopted plan, Tom. I've heard several times from our public works guys, as well as emergency operations guys, that having officially adopted plans by the town council, councils and towns don't necessarily like to adopt plans of this nature because they're restrictive, and they commit the towns to certain things, which they might need to alter in an emergency or safety situation. And I heard that even the T2 people talk about risk management. So I know you said you built some flexibility into your plan, but I'm wondering if both of you guys can kind of speak to that, because I've heard that pretty frequently. And I know in the Sustainable Connecticut, a lot of the actions kind of require official adoption of plans.
Sure.
You want to take
Yeah.
first time?
Yeah, I think so. Our plan was built with goals, right? These are our goals. This is what we're looking to achieve. And it's not necessarily a set of rails that we have to stay between. Like, we're only going to apply this amount of salt for this much snow in this time period. It's not written like that. It's our goals are to get material on the road before the storm starts so we can prevent the bond from snow and ice to the road surface. And so if you use language like that, that's your goal, and it's not restricting you from anything. It's stating that we're out there to perform this service, and that's it. That's our goal. I left it vague enough. In my opinion, I think that we don't have to be too worried about a liability issue in an emergency situation where we had to modify something, because I think the language is free enough to allow us to do that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then-
And Kathleen, tell me again, what town are you from?
West
I missed that.
Hartford. West Hartford.
So yeah,
And
sure.
and all of our guys go through your green snow training. We did got the 5 points for that action. And I'm
Yeah.
sure we're doing a lot.
John Phillips actually helped us develop the program.
And I'm sure I know that we're doing a lot more that potentially we could have submitted for, but we weren't sure about some of the action requirements. I'm wondering, Tom,
Sure.
also if below your plan you have more kind of operational procedures. But anyway, sorry, Mary, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And that's a valid concern, because if you're a Kerma town, you can have Kerma review. They have great wording. They have a great way of wording things to reduce liability. They're just really good at wordsmithing what you want to do, and what you hope to do in a way so that you have the flexibility to do what you need to do in a particular situation without being hindered by what was adopted. And, you know, I get that. I totally get that concern. But I think that, as Tom said, you can write it in a way, and Sustainable CT can talk to this more specifically, but that adoption is showing support, right? It's saying like, this isn't just something we're doing. Our town supports us in this effort. Our town is saying, yes, we agree. This is what we want to do, and we're going to support these operations. So that's my understanding of why they like to see things adopted and more formalized, because it says they've been communicated to the powers that be and they're being supported by the powers that be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I also see it as a leverage tool for potentially to lobby for budget funding. Hey, we have this, I have an energy plan for the same reason.
Yeah, yeah. But it's about how you form your plan. We have, I mean, Public Works, we've got sidewalk plans, you've got, you know, different things. And yes, you can write them in a very limiting and restrictive way, but you can also write them in a way that focuses on goals and focuses on overall performance, not timelines, not have-tos, more we want to, we hope to, this is what we're trying to accomplish.
And I'll just give you a quick example. I know we're just over the time here, but real quick. There's an order of activities section in our plan, and I specifically state there is no set order in which routes may be completed. However, guidance is given to operators for prioritization. So that type of language, I think, gives us the leeway to still make those decisions based on a storm and based on current conditions and staffing levels and equipment needs and all those things. I think you can get away with wording it enough to where you still maintain control in-house.
All right, everybody. Thank you for your questions. We are over time, so we're gonna have to wrap up now. But yeah, just want to thank you all for joining. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Again, we'll be following up with contact information for Shannon, Mary, and Tom. Also feel free to reach out to us at Sustainable CT, and we can help connect you to folks as well. But yeah, thank you all for joining us, and special thank you to Shannon, Mary, and Tom for sharing all the information you did with us today. It was very helpful and informative.
Sure. And Eric, I saw your comment. Shannon's going to reach out to you and get you some information for Waterbury.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day all.